Hello there, welcome back to Color and Scribbles. My name is Rachel, and today we are going to be talking about the benefits of doing studies, and in particular, master studies. Although most of this will also apply to other kinds of studies, but today we're talking about master studies. So what is a master study? A master study is basically when you are doing a study of traditionally an old master painting, but it's a pretty flexible definition. You can do a study of whatever artist you like. The main thing is that you're doing a study of an artist as opposed to doing a study of a photo or a life drawing or anything like that. So why would you do a master study as opposed to any other kind of study? Well, master studies offer a few particular advantages that you don't get from working from a photo or from life. And the biggest difference with a master study from anything else is that you actually get to see how the artist is using their brush strokes, using colors, and how they're actually rendering something. And this can be super helpful because when you're looking at a photo, you have to figure out how to do all that yourself. But when you're looking at another person's painting, you can see that they just used one stroke for the arm, or they used this certain kind of texture to depict the hair. It really helps give you a good sense of how you should be breaking down shapes and different ways and techniques that you could be using to depict certain things. So that's super useful if you're kind of new to art, or if you have been struggling with painting one particular thing. It can be a really good way to see how other artists that you admire go about depicting those things. It's also just a good way in general to kind of get a quick measure of your art skills, because you have a very direct comparison from the source material to your rendering of it. So if you just want to see how well you're able to capture values and how well you're able to capture shapes and just how effective your artistic eye is basically, and your ability to directly render something while looking at it, this is a great way to go about it, because when you're done, you can just look at the version that you painted and directly compare it to the original to see how effective you were. So in general, master studies can be a really good exercise for both testing your artistic eye and also improving your artistic eye. So once you have identified any weak points that you may have, you'll be able to see if you have been drawing things too dark or too light or too big or too small or whatever you might be doing. Once you've identified that through your master study, you can then, make a point of improving that the next time you do a master study. So overall, it's a really good exercise for people of any level, and I still do them and I highly recommend them. So here are my tips for how to do a master study. So how I like to do master studies is to do them as a speed painting and a value study. And you can definitely do a color version of a master study, and you can also, give yourself a longer time limit. I usually do about an hour. I aim for not more than an hour, definitely. And it is because of that time limit that I like to do it as a value study as opposed to a full color study. And I find that I get all of the useful information out of this that I want. It's still good practice for composition. It gives you the brush strokes and the texture of the piece, and it gives you the values, which is, super important. And I find that adding the layer of complexity of color to it is just not necessary for what I'm trying to get out of these. So I definitely recommend that for beginners, especially if you are new to doing studies or master studies. Taking color out of the equation makes it much less intimidating and much less difficult, because color is a pain in the ass, especially when you're trying to do a study of, a very photorealistic painting or something like that. So black and white, aim for about an hour, really try to focus on the speed of it, and just capture whatever you can in that hour, and then make it a goal to capture more and more with each successive piece that you do. So the first thing that I do when I start a master study is I identify the darkest and the lightest points in the picture, and I try to paint those in. I also usually start with a neutral tone, kind of a middle gray, something that seems to appear throughout most of it, and then I look for the darkest and the lightest spots. The reason that I do that, and the reason that it's a really good idea, is because then you have a point of comparison for all of the other values in the picture. So once you know the darkest thing, you can look for the next darkest thing, and try to figure out how those two compare, how dark they are compared to each other. And it really gives you a good range to work with, because you know that you can't go any darker than this, and then you know that you're going to be working backwards from there, basically. So it just helps give you a frame of reference for the whole piece. All of the values in it you know are going to be in this range, and it just keeps you from getting caught up in trying to figure out like how dark something is or how light something is. Another thing that I do throughout the painting of a master study is what I call drop lines, and this might have a better technical term, but I just call them drop lines. Basically, you want to be comparing parts of the picture to other parts of the picture in order to figure out like the location of things and the size of things and just how things relate to each other. So you might notice that like the nose is directly above the collarbone, or like where the arm goes off the page is about a quarter of the way up on the side. So just things like that. You want to make observations about like how the facets of the picture are interacting with each other. And the reason I call it drop lines is because I usually try to imagine it as a line going straight down or straight across from one part of the body to whatever other part of the body I'm trying to, place on the page, basically. So that way, even if you're not consistent within the frame, you're at least consistent within the figure that you're depicting. So like if you end up with a small head, then like the rest of the body's also going to be small, because you're using those drop lines to make sure that the body fits the head, basically, if that makes sense. So even if the whole, like in that case, the whole person would end up being a little bit too small, and then you could just scale them up. So yeah, drop lines, imaginary lines connecting the different parts of the body so that everything stays in scale to itself. The next thing to keep in mind is to try to work from a very large scale to a smaller scale of detail. So you want to really try to get down like large shapes first and large value areas first, and then do full passes across the whole canvas. So like do a whole layer where you've got like the largest brush that you can use, and then shrink down your brush a little bit, do another layer of details, shrink down your brush a little bit, do another layer of details. And the reason for that is because it keeps you, again, from getting too caught up in the details too soon, and because it makes it so that no matter where you end up stopping in the piece, it will look cohesive, because you've been working in a consistent size for the whole page before you moved on to a smaller size or a smaller scale. So even if you stop, like even if your time is up way before you feel like you're done, at least everything is going to be the same level of completion. Alright, and then the last and possibly most important thing with a master study that I like to do is to put both the original master study and my copy of it into the same Photoshop file, and then turn each layer on and off so that I can get a really quick comparison between the two. So like I'll basically put my version on top of, in a layer above the original, and then I'll turn my version on and off pretty quickly, and you'll find that when you do that, you get a very good sense of the things that are different and the things that are correct in the two pieces. So it makes it very easy to see if you were, where you went wrong and also where you went right. But with something like this, since it's so fast, try not to be too concerned with getting everything perfect. The real goal here is seeing the things that you consistently and regularly are struggling with. And when you are forced to do something quickly like this, it really shows your mistakes well. So you'll know if you messed it up on a master study, you're probably messing it up elsewhere too. And it's a very quick way to, assess those things and to be able to make adjustments in the future for them. So in conclusion, you won't be able to get an exact copy of your master painting in an hour, but hopefully you'll get to a point where somebody might have to do a double take of your piece to, see that it's not the original. Because basically, if you've got the values right, if you've got the composition right, if you've got all of these fundamentals pretty close to accurate, then at a glance it would look like the original, because the details don't matter at that point, because most of what people see when they just glance at it are those basic elements: the larger shapes, the values, the lighting, and the composition. Like that's really what you see when you just glance at it. So hopefully you'll get to a point where that's what happens. People have to do a little double take to make sure that it's not the original. But of course, the real goal here is to see your flaws, to really hold a magnifying glass up to those, and to make improvements on them next time. So hopefully this was helpful. Like I said, I really enjoy doing master studies, and I always find them to be super useful. I always find some things that I've been doing wrong that I could be improving upon when I do these. So I definitely recommend giving this a try. Super low pressure exercise that can show you, some areas where you might need to improve. So that's pretty much it for today. I know it's been a while since my last video, and I apologize for that. I started a new job and it's awesome, but it has also, takes up most of my day now. So I'm trying to get back into a schedule, and hopefully I'll be able to keep producing videos regularly, maybe every other week or twice a month, something like that. But yeah, I also see that we're getting up close to 1,000 subscribers here, so if you have any suggestions for what I should do for 1,000 subscribers, please let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, also put it in the comments, or if you have any suggestions for future video topics, you can put that in the comments too. Thank you so much for watching as always. I hope that this was helpful, and I will see you next time. If you enjoyed this, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing for more content like this. Thanks again. Bye-bye.